From St. Francis de Sales collection of letters and also from his other writings, we grasp an exquisite sensitivity in bringing the feminine world closer to an encounter with God, and through the encounter with God, to the gift of self and to a relationship of deep friendship with Him. Francis proposes all this both in the lay world and in consecrated life. This explains the title of this video, St. Francis de Sales and his Philotheas, those who are guided by him to an encounter with God. It is very interesting to come across certain settings in an essay. For example, a main door we find in an essay's oldest street. The door is very similar to others, but it provides access to the home where Louise de Chantal lived. She married Claude de Chamoisy, and this archbishop gained a new cousin. Thanks to her, and to the written advice her cousin would give her, all this will become what we still have today, and which is called the Introduction to the Devout Life, sometimes also known as the Philotheas. Francis also recognizes and shares with Jeanne de Chantal the gift of grasping and above all of educating the spiritual desires in the world in the feminine sensibility, precisely as a gift of grace received from God the Father.
A truly strange thing, there are no souls in the world who love more warmly, more tenderly, and I would say more completely and lovingly than I, since it has pleased God to make my heart thus.
There is a long history that characterizes this gift from our bishop, and this history certainly begins with Francis's relationship with his mother, Françoise de Sonneuse. Only about 15 years separates the mother from the son. While there was almost 31 years difference of age between Francis's mother and his father, all this makes us say that it was obviously an arranged marriage. But you can say that even though it was arranged, it was a successful marriage. Historians tell us that Francis's mother was a very loving nature. A year after her marriage, she would give birth to her first child. Her second child would be 9 years later when she gave birth to Galore. Historians remind us that the first 6 years of Francis's life were years spent closely with his mother, and from his mother he received affection, education, and certainly also a deep religious sensitivity. Speaking about Francis when she was much advanced in age, his mother said, "This is my son and my father." Because it was true that his mother was one of the souls he guided spiritually. This profound sensitivity developed as attention and kindness to everyone whom our bishop encountered. For example, one day he came back home and found his servant intent on writing a letter, something certainly not common for those times.
My friend, when I came in, you were intent with pen and paper, then hid everything. What were you writing? Am I not enough of a friend for you to confide this to me?
The young man, confused, handed the paper to the bishop. It was a little letter in which he had written a declaration of love. The bishop read it and then concluded,
"You are not explaining yourself well. Let me help you. Here, copy this. Put your name on it and send it. You will see that everything will be fine.
Another presence which educated Francis's faith so much and affected his understanding of the feminine was the presence of Mary, the Mother of God. Francis would say that she was the most lovable and loving woman of all creatures. Francis would always have a very strong filial and affectionate devotion to her. Here in the Basilica of the Visitation, which houses the relics of St. Francis and St. Jean de Chantal, we return to that very significant letter written at the end of his life to Jean de Chantal. André Revel, a great and profound connoisseur of our saint, describes this letter as the heart of Salesianity, as if it gathered up all the themes and attitudes dear to Salesian holiness.
There are no souls in the world who love more warmly, more tenderly, and I would say more completely and lovingly than I, since it has pleased God to make my heart theirs. But just the same, I love independent, vigorous souls that are not effeminate, since such great tenderness clouds the heart, worries it, and distracts it from loving prayer to God. It prevents complete resignation and perfect death of self-love.
The excellence of this intense and profound letter comes in the last lines when the Holy Bishop declares,
"What is not God is nothing to us. It is marvelous how I put all these things together, for it is my opinion that I love nothing at all but God, and all souls for God."
All this means is that the space of their friendship lies in the hearts of Jesus and in the will of God the Father and in the gift of each other, nowhere else. Six months after he got to meet her in Dijon, Francis de Sales would write to Jean de Chantal,
"In Rome, I saw a tree planted by Blessed Saint Dominic. Everyone goes to see it, and they love it out of love for the one who planted it. Well, I, having seen in you the tree of the desire for holiness that our Lord has planted in your soul, have taken to loving it tenderly."
What we've heard tells us that Francis's holiness could not exist without Jean de Chantal's holiness. We could equally say that Don Bosco's holiness could not exist without the deep desire for God, which certainly came from his upbringing.
Il cammino spirituale del nostro Santo Vescovo, quello che lui stesso vive e che propone alle anime che guida, è così semplice e adeguato alla nostra umanità. Però non dobbiamo credere che sia totalmente spontaneo. Anche Francesco conosce un tarlo.
Francis also knows about a woodworm that undermines our relationship with God, and it is the woodworm of self-love. Attachment to self, seeing ourselves as the only one directing our life. And self-love transforms ties, even the most beautiful ones, into constraints. So Francis educates his sister to detachment, the kind of detachment which they still maintain today.
On the last day of the year, you will take your crosses, rosary beads, and holy pictures and make a small envelope for them and draw lots to avoid preferences. But listen, here's the best part. I cannot stand certain religions being called the chosen woman or such and such a woman. No. No precedence. And no words of seniority. We are all of very little worth. On the first envelope, write the number 1. And the second, 2. And so on. And my daughters, in this way, we will live detached from everything.